how's it going, Diablo fans? So today I have yet another lightning build for you. At the very beginning I just want to make one note here real quick. I will now include a section for Eternal Realm in every of my guides. So if there's a section Eternal in the description down below, you can just go there and check out the changes you have to make to transition this from a seasonal build to an Eternal build. This is going to be a chain lightning base again, but this build is going to be aimed to be long distance. Because we might have to play at full distance with the upcoming Abertwelfzir, so you might notice the gameplay looks a little bit slower. That is because I'm specifically playing this long distance. So I'm not teleporting in, I stay at max range and I kill all the mobs before they can even attack me, so pretty much that's the goal. Because we don't know the difficulty of upcoming content yet, but we might just not be able to go into melee range at all. That being said, this build is also great if you wanna play like a little bit more of a slow pace. Because, you know, you don't have to rush through nightmare dungeons like a madman and finish them in like 1 minute and 30 seconds if that is not really what you're up to. If you're like going through nightmare dungeons and you just want to loot regularly, like this build is a great variant to do that. Because you don't have to rely on stomping through. So you can just kill a pack, then just loot, pick up the crackling energy, spawn your lightning spares, and then just go over to the next pack. You're not so reliant on unstable currents here, so if you like a little bit more relaxed chain lightning build at a range, this is probably a great build you can approach. Before we get into the detailed guide, as always, I will just explain you real quick how this build works. And you can always skip to the sections you like by using the description down below. All sections are linked there, the planner is linked there, and also at the very bottom of the description you can find my other build guides if you're interested in that. This build is pretty much a classic chain lightning build. We are using the lightning spare enchantment here, so we have Permastun all the time. So while we don't have unstable currents, we still generate a lot of crackling energy, and with the crackling energy we can then spawn the lightning spares we need to pre-stun enemies on and off screen. And it also synergizes very well with the Conjuration Mastery. So if we have 6 points into Conjuration Mastery and we say let's have like 10 lightning spares up on average, that is like 60% damage bonus right there. And especially in boss fight scenarios, you can easily get up to like 20 lightning spares, which is like scaling up to like 100% plus damage increase. And that's really a lot. And you can see in the footage right now how quickly we can actually melt down bosses and Uber Liliths. The build also uses a very high lucky hit chance, which is used to trigger the Ball Lightning enchant. Since Chain Lightning does not have any true area of effect damage, we can pretty much rely on Ball Lightning enchant here to sort that out for us. If it comes to a single target scenario like boss fights, the Chain Lightning damage actually kicks in a lot. Also in this build we don't really have to worry about our mana anymore, because in this build we can actually use the recharging aspect, and furthermore we also use the static search node, which also gives us some nice little mana regeneration and will also take care of rendering enemies vulnerable for us all the time. And that's already pretty much it for this short introduction here. Again, let me just rephrase how to play this build. So you basically, if you don't have any lightning spares on, you can either cast one single lightning spare or you can just prematurely pop unstable currents. Then you just clear the first pack, pick up the crackling energy, have lightning spares be spawned by the lightning spare enchantment, and then you just continue forward while having your lightning spears like in front of you, pre-stunning everything, which gives you an advantage that enemies usually are not going to charge you unless they have like unstoppable. And just one more note is, in this guide at the very end I'm showing you nightmare dungeons, and I actually choose difficult nightmare dungeons here. So I'm not choosing like the great dungeons which are super easy to clear. I use dungeons with like horrible modifiers, like I'm using like Death Pulse, I'm using Unstoppables, and the dungeons I use in general are like terrible. I use dungeons where the enemies just explode on the ground all the time, which is like pretty much impossible to play at the melee range. So just keep that in mind if you're watching the footage and you're wondering why I'm going like a little bit slow on those dungeons. Okay, as always, let's first go over the skill tree. We just put 2 points into Firebolt to get access to Chain Lightning. With Destructive Chain Lightning, 1 point into Devastation, 2 points into Elemental Dominance. I simply can't find a third point to get into the tier. 1 point into Flame Shield, 1 point into Teleport. We're not going to use any other defensives here. Then we max out Glass Cannon and Elemental Attunement. We go for 3 points into Precision Magic, since this build uses Lucky Hit a lot. Then 1 point into Align the Elements, 3 into Mana Shield, 3 into Protection, all the defensive stuff we pretty much always get. Then we put 1 point into Lightning Spare, into Enhanced Lightning Spare and Invoke Lightning Spare for the stun. Then we put 3 points into Conjuration Mastery, and you want to have +3 on your amulet. This is gonna significantly increase your damage output. Then we put 1 point into Inner Flames and 3 points into Devouring Blaze. We are not playing Burning Synergy, so we can pretty much just use this with Flame Shield. But Flame Shield actually does quite a good job in rendering stuff burning, especially in a single target or boss fight scenario. These 3 points really help you out a lot. And I don't really need the points otherwise anyway. Then we max out Ball Lightning with Enhanced Ball Lightning and Wizard's Ball Lightning for the Crackling Energy. This helps a lot with generating Crackling Energy to use the Lightning Spare enchantment, but it also does significant damage, I'm not gonna lie about that. Then we put 3 points into Static Discharge, again just for Crackling Energy generation. 1 point into an Unstable Currents and 1 point into Prime Unstable Currents. 1 point into Causing Currents, 3 points into Electrocution for the damage reduction, 3 points into Conduction for the movement speed and attack speed and critical strike chance together with our uniques. And then we choose Ace's Ferocity. Currently this is bugged, and this pretty much works for all damage. So this is a 25% damage increase and 5% crit chance increase. Whenever this gets fixed, you will probably switch over to Verse Mastery, because Verse Mastery doesn't seem to be working at this point. So it's pretty much a trade-off, but Verse Mastery would probably even be better if it would be working properly here. For the skills, we still use Unstable Currents as our ultimate. This especially helps in boss fights or in elite situations. You can get the cooldown down to like 40 seconds or a little bit lower if you have the cooldown reduction rolls. I'm missing cooldown reduction on my amulet and on my focus, unfortunately. I just can't find these pieces. Then we use Ice Blades. This is just used for the Tal Rasha stack for 15% extra damage. Teleport to get around faster, and also it triggers the effect of the T-Ball's pants. Flame Shield, pretty much the most important defensive skill anyway. Chain Lightning is our main damage spell for single target, and it also is used to generate Crackling Energy, and also the Lucky Hit will put a lot of Ball Lightnings in there from the Ball Lightning enchant. And then last we put Lightning Spare on our bar. If we have no Lightning Spares active, we can just pre-pop Lightning Spare to pre-stun for everything for us. And also gives like 6% damage increase with the Conjuration Mastery. Then we use the Lightning Spare enchantment here. This helps us to have as many Lightning Spares active at a time as possible. Those are pre-stunning everything for us, and also they're gonna increase our damage using their Conjuration Mastery. And last but not least, Ball Lightning enchantment. This is simply too strong to not use it. It does significant damage, especially since Chain Lightning is not really doing area of effect damage. We can get around it by using the Ball Lightning enchantment, and Ball Lightning will do the area of effect damage for us just fine. Let's go over legendary aspects. So let's start with the offensive ones. We are using the Conceded aspect on our amulet. This gives us 38% increased damage while we have a barrier. Then we are using the Accelerating aspect. This allows us to overcap our attack speed at 250% together with Unstable Currents. We use the Stormswell aspect for another 30% damage while we have a barrier. And last but not least, we use the aspect of Unbroken Tether to give our Chain Lightning additional bounces. This helps with mana regeneration, as well as generating more Crackling Energy, and on top of it, it actually does a little bit of extra damage as well. Then we are using the aspect of Fortune on our helmet for more lucky hit chance. We use the aspect of Disobedience on our chest piece, nothing special here. Then we use the Recharging aspect to gain maximum mana regeneration from Chain Lightning. You don't want to use anything below 2.5. 2.5 is going to work alright. Anything below you don't really want to use. And for unique items, we use T-Ball's Will. In this build, since we are playing at a long distance, we don't really need like the super high armor here. We will still be at armor cap with our other items and our Paragon Board. And we mainly use this for the maximum resource and the damage increase. The very nice part about the maximum resource is that it actually helps a lot to have a little bit of extra resource, and you don't really have to waste a slot on other items or your Paragon Board. You can just take the maximum resource from the T-Balls here, and of course the damage helps a lot as well. And then we use Asus boots. These are pretty much giving us the crit chance we need, and mana cost reduction also is pretty nice. Aim for high movement speed and high critical strike chance roll. In general, you want to have like at least 25 critical strike chance with max movement speed. If you can't find one with max movement speed, then go for a higher critical strike roll. And last but not least, we use the Tarasha's Iridescent Loop. This ring, I also have a 15%, but I still use the 13.5% because I want to have high rolls on cooldown reduction, lucky hit, and resource generation. But yeah, you're pretty much free to use the one you want. This one has a low item level, so I only have 4.5 resistance to all elements. It's barely enough, but it is possible that you fall a little bit below max resistances if you have a very low roll on this ring here. Let's go over item and stat priorities, and you will always find the dream stats in the planner link in the description. On our helmet, we want to have total armor, maximum life, cooldown reduction, and lucky hit chance or crowd control duration. Both are pretty nice. On your chest piece, you want total armor, maximum life, you want 1 damage reduction stat, and ideally you want to have 1 intelligence roll here. I don't feel like you need the 2nd damage reduction stat on this piece, but you know, if you have 2 damage reduction, that's still obviously pretty nice. Then on your gloves, you want to have the highest possible attack speed roll. That is because we are using the Heady Assault Elixir for 20% extra attack speed. So together with the Ravenous Vampiric Power, this actually puts you at 95% attack speed, and 100% attack speed is max. So yeah, you could try to get some more attack speed somewhere else, but I feel like 95% is just great to have. And in general, you have higher attack speed after using evade on your boots, but in general, you know, you could probably remove this attack speed roll, and then you would be at max attack speed like 50% of the time. But with this roll, you're pretty much at max attack speed all the time, as long as you're using the Heady Assault Elixir. On your T-Balls, you want to focus the maximum resource roll and the unique power roll. The other ones are not so important, actually. It's nice to have if you have good stats, but maximum resource and the percentage are definitely most important. For Asus boots, already talked about this. You want to have critical strike chance above 25% and maximum movement speed. If you can't get maximum movement speed, just take the one with the highest critical strike chance. Mana cost reduction is nice, but it's not super mandatory here. On your wand, as pretty much always, you want to have all stats, intelligence, you want to have vulnerable damage and critical strike damage, for example. So this piece here is actually not that great for this build, but you know, I guess it's alright. On your focus, you want to have critical strike chance, lucky hit to gain resource, mana cost reduction, and cooldown reduction. So I have crowd control duration instead of cooldown reduction. If you have cooldown reduction, that's actually very, very nice here. On your amulet, you definitely want to have mastery skills, ranks of conjuration mastery, movement speed, and either cooldown reduction or max intelligence. I have all conjuration skills, that's pretty much wasted here. Again, maximum intelligence or cooldown reduction, both are great. On your ring, you want to have critical strike chance, lucky hit chance, resource generation, and maximum life. So I guess this ring is pretty much alright. And on your Tarasha's ring, you want to focus the high lucky hit chance, cooldown reduction, and resource generation rolls over very, very good elemental damage rolls. So 13.5, 13%, these are all alright. Don't get the 15% one if you have one with terrible other stats. So definitely the lucky hit chance, resource generation, and cooldown reduction are more important than having the max roll on the damage increase here. For our Vampiric Powers, we use the Ravenous for the maximum attack speed increase. We use the Undying, pretty much no debate about that one. We use Infection to give us the Forced Tarasha stack for another 15% damage. Then we use the Sanguine Brace for another 10% damage reduction while fortified and 8% extra critical strike chance. And last but not least, we use the Metamorphosis. This just gives you Unstoppable and works together with the T-Ball's Pants to give you some extra damage and some extra Unstoppable uptime. You do not have to use this. You can use Teleport and Flame Shield to trigger Unstoppable, but with this one you're gonna have a little bit more uptime. If you don't want to use it, there's definitely other stuff you can use here. Anticipation is great. Feed the Corvin also works great if you, for whatever reason, have mana troubles, but you can also get 10% extra damage from this one. And also the Prey on the Weak is a great vampiric power to use here for another 16% extra damage if you feel like it. On our Paragon board, we have to take a little bit more resistances to max out our resistances because we are not using the Elemental Summoner board in this build, and that gives us a little bit less access to resistances. So in our first board, then we put like additional resistances. As you can say, we pretty much take all the nodes, and then we use the Elementalist node to also buff those nodes as much as possible. Then let's move over to the next board. That's going to be the Enchantment Master. We pick up all the non-physical damage and the resistances here again, and then we slot in the Tactician Glyph to boost those resistances and damages even further. We pick up the non-physical damage cluster here and go over to the next board. That's going to be the Keyless Conduit board. We just pick up the Hunter Killer nodes here. We don't have enough points to pick up all these extra movement speed after killing elite nodes, but I feel like they are not so important anyway. And then we put in the Destruction Glyph for a maximum amount of critical strike damage. Move over to the next board. That is going to be the Burning Instinct board. We just take this Conjurer Glyph here with 40 intelligence just for the 20% increased duration. The damage doesn't really matter at all. And we pick this damage reduction from Burning node here. Usually we can only apply burning with the Flame Shield here, but especially in the boss fight scenario or if fighting strong elites, this is still going to be up. And then we also pick up this damage to elite node here. Again, the damage to burning is not super important. Would be nice to max this out with 450 willpower, but I just didn't get to this yet. And we pick up the defensive nodes here to just get some extra armor because we are using T-Ball's Pants and we are not using defensive pants here. And then we move over to the left first to the Static Search board. We just pick the Static Search node here for applying Vulnerable and for the extra mana regeneration. And we pick up these damage to stunned and damage to elite nodes here. And then we move back over to the right. There we pick up the Searing Heat board. We simply use this for the glyph with 40 intelligence. We put in the Charge glyph for another 15% damage increase. And then we move over to our last board, that is the Frigid Fate board. We pick up the Frigid Fate legendary node. We pick up the damage reduction from Vulnerable here. And we also put in the Explode glyph for another 10% damage multiplication. The additive damage bonus here is not really mattering at all. Okay, as I already said, I'm gonna put a section in this video what to change if you want to play on Eternal Realm. So for this build, it's actually pretty simple because you're basically not gonna change a whole lot. The only thing you're gonna do is you're gonna remove the Stormswell aspect or the Conceited aspect, whatever aspect you like to put like on your weapon. So you have one offensive aspect on your amulet, right? And the other one is going on any other piece here. You're gonna remove this aspect. And for that, you're going to put in the aspect of Ancient Flame. And that gives you 50% extra attack speed. So together with your gloves and the Heady Assault Elixir, you're going to sit at 85%. So this is going to be just fine on Eternal. So what are you actually going to use? What are you actually going to lose if you play on Eternal? Yes, you're gonna lose Fortify and 8% extra crit. Nothing you can do about that. You're gonna lose an additional Tarasha stack, unless you can, however, have like Andariel's Visage. Also, nothing you can do about that. You're gonna lose Undying. Yeah, this is also not game breaking. For the Ravenous, again, we just put in the aspect of Ancient Flame, so this is pretty much the same, I would say. And the Metamorphosis just gives you a little bit extra uptime on your T-Balls. You can still trigger T-Balls with Flame Shield and Teleport, so that is actually going to do just fine in Eternal as well. Alright, that's it for this video, and I'm gonna leave you the Nightmare Dungeons and Uber Lilith now. Just keep in mind that this build's damage is obviously lower than Ball Lightning. Ball Lightning is currently the absolute king. But with the upcoming patches we get more damage on our Paragon board with the new glyph. And this might actually make Ball Lightning a little bit less dominant, since Ball Lightning is anyway overcapped on damage already. So if the other builds can catch up a little bit in damage and Ball Lightning will just scale more over the top, this will make more builds playable in terms of damage as compared to Ball Lightning. Anyway, I hope you find this video useful, and thank you so much for watching, and I see you guys next time.